Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you a fun sort of accidentally discovered hybrid resist technique with this amazing cheeseburger image. And to start with, I have stamped the image in Gina K's Amalgam ink in Whisper. And when I set out to make this card, I was going to just do simple no-line coloring. But what I noticed very quickly with this very pale amalgam ink is because it's a hybrid ink meant to work with both water-based mediums and Copic markers, it did what really looks like a resist against these water-based markers. Now, you know I love these markers. I've been using them a lot recently. And they are a water-based, water-soluble marker. So I expected the normal thing that happens when I'm using a water-based medium with a very pale hybrid ink. I expected the ink to sort of fade into the background. But what I found, especially when I was coloring directly with the marker and not watering it down, is it actually sort of resisted, and the details of the image stood out even more than it looked like they were standing out before I put the water-based marker on them. So you'll see as I color this how the detail pops in to all of these different areas like magic. It actually reminds me of a coloring book that I had when I was a kid that you didn't see what was on the page before you started coloring, and then it would pop into view. I don't remember what kind of coloring book it was, but I remember thinking how magical it was when I was little. So I have a few different markers. I'm sort of testing them out to figure out a good tomato-y color. And I will color each little vegetable and topping separately. But I love, especially on the onion and on the tomato, how the detail pops after I put the marker down. At the end, because I can, I will also add a little bit of Copic marker for shading. That's the great thing about this amalgam ink, is I can use it with several different mediums on the same card. When I go to do the onions, you'll see the little stripes on the side of this purple onion pop out. It's hard to tell because the image is so pale, so I am referring to the stamp index image as I go for where, for example, the little tomato is popping out behind the onion and things like that. The pickle is another element that really shows up beautifully in the ink sort of coming through the marker. You can see all those little seeds popping out, and I can't even think of an easier way to color a detailed image like this than to let the ink sort of come through the marker, but without it being that heavy line of a black ink. This image is really big enough to be a background image almost, and it's part of a Father's Day set that has a lot of greetings for fathers, for stepfathers, some sort of generally encouraging sentiments, but the hamburger image by itself is just so fantastic. I can think of lots of kids' birthday cards, and anybody who likes cheeseburgers, like maybe even your cat, would enjoy a card with this image on it. Because as we know, cats like cheeseburgers. Now, I kept the colors fairly bright, although I will say they're pretty realistic. That looks like a blazing piece of American cheese there on the bottom with that glowy orange, and I'm just using a regular brown for the hamburger patty itself. The bun has a toasted detail at the top that you'll really see when I put the marker to how much detail there is. So both of those will be similar colors, but I will make the inside of the toasted part of the bun just a little bit darker. So I'm coming in with a very pale yellow for the outside of the bun, and then I will add shading and toastiness. That color was almost a green, so I don't know why I picked that. I definitely do not want a green hamburger bun. So I'll add a little bit of shading with some marker directly and then blending it with the lighter of those two colors. I love how these blend. No, I'm not using watercolor paper here. I'm just using Bristol Smooth, and these markers work great on Bristol Smooth. But look at that toasty detail underneath the bun. That is so fun and so realistic. And it just pops out as soon as you add the marker, as do the seeds, as you can see on top of the hamburger bun. You can see the little sesame seeds. That's a really fun detail. But it just brings them to life. You could hardly even see them before I put the marker down, so that's pretty amazing. Next, I will take a cool gray Copic marker, and just to add a little bit of dimension, the image looks a little bit flat without some shadows between each layer. So I'll just do very simple shadowing with a Copic marker under each layer of yummy details on this hamburger. And you can see how much of a difference that makes, even though I'm not doing an advanced coloring technique, just making it look a little bit more three-dimensional and realistic where those objects are sitting on top of each other. Now, if you want to edge the inside of the bun as well, where it would naturally be the darkest, that's what I'm doing here. Going all along the top and bottom edge, just to make that pop out a little bit more. Same on the bottom. Now I want you to see what this looks like up close. See where you can see all the different details of each one of those layers. It's really kind of a miracle. I'll enhance a few little spots, not every single detail, but for example, on the tomato, you can see how you can see the shape of the tomato slice a little bit better if I just add a little bit of shading. But the amalgam ink does all the work for you. You really don't need to do this step because it's just amazing how much of the detail is preserved. This is a neutral gray, and the first one I used was a cool gray, and you can combine warm, neutral, and cool grays on your shading depending on what objects you're coloring. This one is a little bit lighter than the gray that I shaded with at first. So you can see me going back here and adding a little bit of a darker neutral gray just to do little pops of dimension on the lettuce. That has such a great curly edge. It's fun to add a little bit of darkness just to emphasize that fun shape. The important thing is not to outline every object completely, then it would look very cartoonish. So I like to just pick spots here and there where I add a little bit of a darker color, just to sort of draw your eye around the image. The way that this is put together, the colors that you can choose for each of those elements are really fun because complementary colors are next to each other, which you will notice. I don't know if she chose that deliberately, but having green in between purple and red, and then having green in between red and orange, all of those are making the image go complementary, complementary, complementary. So there's a lot of contrast, and I think that's what makes it an appealing image overall. So there you have it. That is your hybrid resist colored cheeseburger, hamburger, veggie burger card for anybody who might be feeling a little bit hungry. Here's the finished card. and head over to my blog for more information. And thanks so much for watching.